Welcome to our comprehensive guide on OAuth interview questions. OAuth, which stands for Open Authorization, is a critical authorization framework that every developer should understand. Today, we'll explore OAuth fundamentals including authorization flows, tokens, scopes, security considerations, and API authentication. OAuth is widely used in modern applications for secure access delegation, making it a popular topic in technical interviews. Whether you're preparing for a backend developer position, security engineer role, or full-stack development interview, mastering OAuth concepts is essential for your success. OAuth is an open standard authorization framework that enables applications to obtain limited access to user accounts on third-party services. Think of OAuth as a secure way for applications to access your data without you having to share your actual password. The key concepts include delegated authorization, which means users can grant limited access to their resources without sharing credentials. OAuth eliminates password sharing between applications, uses limited scope access to restrict what data can be accessed, and relies on token-based authentication instead of passwords. This makes OAuth much more secure than traditional username-password authentication methods. OAuth 2.0 defines four key participants in the authorization process. First, the resource owner, typically the user who owns the protected resources like profile data or photos. Second, the client, which is the application requesting access to the user's resources, such as a mobile app or web application. Third, the authorization server, which authenticates the user and issues access tokens after successful authentication. Finally, the resource server, which hosts the protected user resources and validates access tokens before serving data. Understanding these four roles is crucial because they interact in specific ways during the OAuth flow, and interview questions often test your knowledge of their responsibilities. The authorization code flow is the most secure OAuth 2.0 flow and is considered the gold standard for server-side web applications. Here's how it works. First, the client redirects the user to the authorization server. Second, the user authenticates and grants permission to the application. Third, the authorization server sends an authorization code back to the client's callback URL. Fourth, the client exchanges this code for an access token in a secure server-to-server communication. Finally, the client uses the access token to access protected resources. This flow is best suited for applications with a secure backend because the client secret can be stored safely on the server. The implicit flow was originally designed for browser-based JavaScript applications, but is now deprecated due to security concerns. In this flow, the access token is returned directly in the URL fragment after user authentication, making it a single redirect step process. Key characteristics include no client secret requirement, since it's designed for public clients, and no refresh token is issued for security reasons. However, this flow has significant security risks because tokens can be exposed in browser history and referrer headers. Modern security best practices recommend using the authorization code flow with PKCE instead of the implicit flow for single-page applications. The client credentials flow is designed for machine-to-machine authentication where no user interaction is required. This flow is used when the client application is acting on its own behalf, not on behalf of a user. Common use cases include API services where microservices need to communicate with each other, background jobs that process data automatically, and system integration scenarios in enterprise environments. The flow is straightforward. The client authenticates directly with the authorization server using its credentials and receives an access token. This flow is perfect for server-to-server communication, where applications need to access their own resources or perform automated tasks. OAuth uses two main types of tokens: access tokens and refresh tokens. Access tokens are credentials used to access protected resources. They are short-lived, typically lasting 15 to 60 minutes, and are sent with every API request. Access tokens have limited scope and permissions, and can be in JWT or opaque format. Refresh tokens, on the other hand, are used to obtain new access tokens without user interaction. They are long-lived, typically lasting 30 to 90 days, and are sent only to the authorization server. Refresh tokens must be stored securely on the client and follow one-time use patterns with token rotation for enhanced security. Scopes define the specific permissions and level of access that an application is requesting from a user. Scopes implement the principle of least privilege, meaning applications should only request the minimum permissions they actually need. Common scope examples include read for read-only access to user data, write for creating and modifying user data, profile for accessing user profile information, email for accessing the user's email address, and OpenID for OpenID Connect authentication. Scopes are typically space-separated strings in authorization requests, and users can see exactly what permissions an application is requesting before granting access. OAuth security requires following several best practices. PKCE, which stands for Proof Key for Code Exchange, prevents authorization code interception attacks and is now required for all public clients. The state parameter prevents cross-site request forgery attacks by validating request-response correlation using random values. All OAuth communications must use HTTPS to protect tokens during transmission. Secure token storage is critical. Never store tokens in local storage or session storage in browsers. Instead, use secure, encrypted storage mechanisms. These security measures are essential because OAuth tokens provide access to sensitive user data and must be protected from various attack vectors. Let's review the most common OAuth interview questions you're likely to encounter. Interviewers often ask about the difference between OAuth and OpenID Connect, when to use the client credentials flow, how PKCE prevents security attacks, and the security risks of the implicit flow. You should also be prepared to discuss how to implement token refresh securely, the purpose of the state parameter, how scopes limit application access, and what JWT tokens are and their benefits. Understanding these concepts thoroughly will help you confidently answer OAuth-related questions in your technical interviews and demonstrate your knowledge of modern authentication and authorization patterns.
If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit CodeLucky.com for more such useful content.